So you're interested in securing your Cloud Run services with private networking? You're in the right place. My name's Lorin, and I'm a networking specialist customer engineer. You may remember my last video a few years back on concepts of networking with Cloud Run. If you haven't watched that video yet, I suggest you start there. Links in the description. Well, good news. All of those concepts still apply, but in the time since, we've released a lot of new and improved options for private networking with Cloud Run. Let's jump in and see what's new. Cloud Run is a managed compute platform that lets you run your containers, no matter the programming language, on Google's infrastructure. As a serverless platform, Cloud Run handles the infrastructure so you can focus on building apps and not managing servers. Now on to the private networking concepts for Cloud Run. We'll start with ingress patterns, then move on to egress. Remember that Cloud Run infrastructure does not run directly inside the VPC, hence why we need to consider these access patterns when designing the network. For ingress, one option is Private Service Connect for Google APIs. Like private Google access, it gives you private connectivity, but now you can set a global internal IP in your VPC to reach your Cloud Run services via the run.app URL. No more relying on Google-provided VIPs. PSC endpoints don't work across VPC peering, and they're not yet supported by the PSC propagation feature in Network Connectivity Center. So you'll need to deploy a PSC for Google API's endpoint in each VPC that requires access to Cloud Run services. You'll also need a private DNS zone for run.app in each VPC, along with a forwarding zone for any hybrid traffic that needs to reach Cloud Run. This setup is a good fit if you're calling your service via the default run.app URL. The next ingress pattern uses Private Service Connect to expose Cloud Run as a producer service. To do this, you must expose your Cloud Run service through an internal, regional, or cross-regional application load balancer using a serverless NEG. To make that accessible over PSC, you must associate the forwarding rule with a service attachment and a PSC NAT subnet. You can size the PSC NAT subnet depending on the number of expected PSC endpoints that will be connecting to the service, which is a one-to-one mapping. Once the service is exposed, you can create a PSC endpoint in another VPC and point it to the service attachment you just created. You must have a private DNS zone configured for the custom DNS on the internal application load balancer. But instead of pointing the A record to the load balancer's IP, you use the IP of the PSC endpoint. Remember, PSC endpoints are not natively accessible over a VPC peering, so it's important to enable PSC propagation on the NCC hub if you need to access the PSC endpoint from workloads that are hosted outside of the VPC where your endpoint is deployed. A PSC producer service is a great option to use when you want to use custom domain names with your Cloud Run services. You want to control which projects have access to your Cloud Run service. Or you want to reduce the amount of IP space consumed by load balancer components by essentially running your Cloud Run services in island mode VPCs. Now let's talk egress. In addition to serverless VPC access connectors, there's a newer recommended feature called Direct VPC egress. This allows you to configure a subnet directly on a VPC for Cloud Run egress. By doing so, you get lower latency and higher throughput without the overhead of creating and managing a serverless VPC access connector. Plus, you only pay for network traffic. All of the same options still apply, like choosing to egress all traffic or just internal RFC 1918 traffic back into the VPC. If your VPC is connected to your NCC hub, you can route this egress traffic to other VPC spokes, hybrid environments, PSC endpoints for Google APIs, other PSC-based services, or internet destinations. Let's touch on a few Cloud Run networking updates outside of the ingress and egress patterns. You now have the ability to turn off the Cloud Run default run.app URL. This is a great option if you want to restrict your Cloud Run service to only being accessed via load balancing. Additionally, Cloud Functions is now Cloud Run Functions. So for newly deployed functions, all of the concepts discussed in this video and the last one now apply. So let's review our key takeaways. Adding to the list of ingress methods are PSC for Google APIs and PSC producer services. Adding to the list of egress methods is Direct VPC egress. For some added security, consider disabling the default run.app URL if you don't need it. Thanks for watching today. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Google Cloud networking content.